Among other things, I wanted to bring out this distinction between the Western approach, because I sometimes use the Western. It's not like, I mean, I'm a Westerner, and at best, I'm always going to be a mixture of the two. But I happen, and sometimes I just get in that mood. So when I did this drawing, which is a pen drawing with a fountain pen, this is not a Zen drawing in any way, shape, or form. Even though it's done without any prior sketch, and it's done immediately, in one-shot deal from a photograph. But because it goes so much into the detail, and a certain degree of, over-degree of detail, you could say, it loses the simplicity, the airiness, the emptiness, the openness that is the Zen quality, and it just doesn't have it. And I'm going to just pass this around. And even, I've done a lot of jazz painting, so it doesn't particularly capture the jazz quality. It doesn't capture that. It's a photograph of a jazz musician translated into ink, but it doesn't have. I should actually have brought along another jazz picture, but that didn't occur to me. But now again, trying to handle it like this. Don't put, with your thumbs on the sides. Don't put your thumbs on the tops. Whereas this was one of the paintings when I met these Chinese gentlemen, and we didn't have one word in common. So it really was a wordless teaching because we had absolutely no way of communicating with them. I was at an exhibition in Las Vegas just before Christmas, and there were 10 top Chinese Sumi painters there. And they had a whole pavilion, and then the artist I was with had another pavilion. So I went and I met them, and they took me around and showed me all their art, and then I brought them to see mine. And what was interesting to me was they totally got what I was trying to do instantly, and didn't really surprise me, because after all, that's what my art is based on, so that darn well had better happen. And, but of course I hadn't tested it too often. I really met about 3 other people from Japan and China, and they all approved of what I did. But these were the top guys. There is no higher. And they got it immediately. And so we were communicating in sign language, and they were doing Tai Chi moves, and they were showing me how they use their arms and their brush strokes and stuff, and we were having a grand old time. And then I realized that's part of my problem in America, because what I'm doing is really the opposite of what is generally what goes on this side of the world. But at any rate, and this was one of the top masters. He particularly liked this one, and he pulled it out, and he was saying a whole bunch of things to me in Chinese, which I would never find out what he was saying, but he was very happy, and ended up taking a picture of me, of himself holding a picture with a big smile, and he felt. So this apparently had, the resonance life movement, I think is probably what it was about. So I want you to see the difference in the way the ink and the lines are used than in the jazz drawing. That is the Zen approach, as translating to the human figure. I could see that in painting just as easily. It's more specialized, but it's every bit as obvious. So it has nothing to do with good or bad, but it's a dishonest paint stroke can be recognized by another painter.
Does Zen do that best?
I don't know if it's a matter of best, but it's what it's made for. That's it's its purpose. It's its modus operandi. It's what it's good for. There are many painters, there are many actors, there are many just people living their lives in what any Zen person would say, that's a very Zen person, and have never thought of Zen, never read Zen, don't need to know anything about it. Because it's really just a way of describing something that exists.
Well, how would you dare make the first stroke then?
That is why you're here, why you're coming tomorrow, and what we do is dare to take first strokes.
Do you have a plan? Or are you just
Well, this is what I said before I make it. It's a decision. It's a strategic decision. And you could call it a plan. Picasso said it best, because he was a very Zen artist. And he said, you should know what you're doing, but not too well.
Yeah.
I don't have a plan, that's my problem.
That's most people's problem.
Recipes.
And what?
Recipes are helpful.
Recipes, yeah. You know, you can have actual specific exercises and recipes until you learn how to make your own recipes. Recipes are great until you can just take the stuff out of the fridge and throw it in the pan
Right.
and make it come out. But the plan, more important than having a plan is knowing how to make a plan.
As you go along.
No,
No?
no. One of my DVDs is called Keeping the Melody. You establish your plan, your melody, and then you try not to forget what song you're singing as you go along. Yeah, you don't change horses midstream under no circumstances.
You talk just for a minute or two about what your plan is for getting us actually putting strokes on paper.
Tomorrow? Meeting? Or you mean in general, or you mean specifically what we are going to do tomorrow?
Or today or tomorrow.
Well, today, you know, the way the course description is, today is a lecture demo and tomorrow is hands-on.
And will we know what materials to bring, or is everything going to be here?
If you have any big sheets of watercolor,
No, we don't.
if you don't, you can buy them from me.
So you
And
have them here?
I have pretty much everything we're going to use.
To be a little concrete, the painting that you just advanced
Yes.
with the squiggly lines and the circle,
Yeah.
the squiggly lines really made it a painting, and I think it's really interesting now, but what was your plan? What was your initial plan?
Well, first of all, I was just thinking about that painting because that is an example of changing horses midstream, because when I made that painting, I never intended to do that. And then I made a decision to do something entirely different with that painting than I normally do.
Right.
That's a very dangerous procedure and I don't recommend it. And,
Why?
When you did the
because
first
you will
painting,
normally ruin whatever you've done.
Do you
When
feel
you-
you've ruined it?
I will reserve judgment.
When you were-
Because I know better than to judge a painting when I've just done it. I won't, I'll look at it a week or two later and I'll know, but the truth is I was using it for a teaching purpose. And if it turns out to be a good painting, great. I did violate a rule. Now, violating a rule can lead to something beyond anything else, so it's important to violate rules. But again, I knew exactly what rule I was violating, and so if you don't know the rules, it's hard to violate. So, but the thing is, about a concrete plans can actually be put into words. They can be written down. My plan then was to take this specific medium of the large, called Grand oil pastel, in a wide variety of colors that would create a good sense of contrast against that background, and using what I would call the equivalent of random brush strokes, but they're not really random, but they involve a lot of different directions. They're very hard to do, actually. It looks easy, but I know from experience they're really hard to do because I try to get everyone to do them and they can't do it for whatever reasons. It's a control thing. They're very uncontrolled, those lines. But that's a decision that I'm going to be uncontrolled and I can truly let go when I do it. But they're only uncontrolled within a band area where I know things are going to take place. And that's my entire strategy. And then after that, the rest is reacting to the moment and being with it and maybe saying, well, that didn't work, this does work, and I'll try this. And gee, that looks different than I expected, and maybe I better do this.
plan number 2 was fabulous. What was your plan for the first, when you put down the random
Well, you
colors?
had to be at that demo to hear the plan. That was done in another demonstration like this.
Oh, okay, but
And-
there was a plan to make rich colors
No,
leading in?
you can't make a painting by trying to do rich colors.
Okay.
I mean, you can do a bunch of rich colors by doing rich colors. This style that I've evolved is a product of 45 years of working on it. So there's a whole bunch of plans going on in there. They're all definite, however.
Thank you.
And they involve color theory, they involve compositional theory, they involve application, ways of applying, they involve being extremely familiar with how these materials behave, more than probably anything else, and knowing in advance what they're going to do and what they're not going to do, what they're capable of, having done it many times before.
Thank you.
And I could go on. But I pretty much know what it's going to look like before I do it. Except I don't. And then there's the choice of colors. And that was done, so that's what's talking before, decisions, right? Decisions. Okay. So, but I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, because this would be the most important thing I'm likely to say today, or any day. It's great to have a plan, but it's infinitely better to know how to make a plan. That's actually what I teach. That's what I put out there. I wouldn't say that's what that many people get, but that's what I want everyone to get.
That's hard.
It's not. It's easy. The easiest thing in the world. It's so, the reason people don't get it is because it's too easy. It's too simple.
What does it mean? What does it mean? I don't know how to make a plan. Set the stage, or?
To make a plan is to do, is about, your name. Your name?
Ray.
Ray, right, Ray, okay, Ray's question was, how do I make a plan? And I told him, but I'll do it again. Before I did that, there was a plan. The plan was to be totally elaborate about it. To take this particular sheet of paper with this particular type of painting, abstract underpainting, and using that as a background to take this specific material, no other material on the planet, only this material. As a matter of fact, this specific box, which I brought here, already with this in mind for this purpose, because otherwise I wouldn't have brought it. And making sure that the colors are in there that I know I need. Because I have more of these. And sometimes I have a box with only all dark ones, or only all light ones, or only all cool ones, or all warm ones. I have to check and make sure, all right, I've got the spread of colors. And then I'm going to make these certain kinds of moves with the chalk or with the stick that I have perfected, my own little move, if you will. It's really based, it's the chalk version of this. It's the same thing as that, done with this. Everyone get that?
Mm-hmm.
That's where it comes from. Okay. And then so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do it in a circle, like the ensign. That's the whole plan. It's very precise, and but I've never done it before. That's the fun part. So I really don't know. There's enough variables in there that I don't really know what it's going to look like. That's what keeps it fresh.